dual dual monitor, so I just have to set up some things. Yeah. Yeah. Now can you see my screen? Yeah.
Yeah, we can.
Okay. Yeah. So welcome to this webinar on Markdown basics. I first of all like to thank Rahul for giving me this topic and this literally the opportunity to present my first webinar. Yeah. Thanks. Here's a quick agenda. So during the course of this webinar, we will touch about, on the introduction to Markdown, its history, uses and tools, have some demos, and then we'll walk through the Markdown guide, followed by Q&A. So about the webinar itself, this webinar is really an introduction to Markdown. It helps you get started with Markdown. Like if you have never used Markdown before, this webinar will definitely help you to get started with Markdown. It's really not for, Markdown professionals, who would want to understand the different flavors of Markdown, etc. So this webinar is really about learning and trying out a bit. Yeah. So what is Markdown? Markdown is really a lightweight markup language. It's a text to HTML conversion tool. Basically, it allows you to write using an easy to read and easy to write plain text format and convert it to a valid HTML. So basically, it is again a simple way of formatting text, in an editor, but it will render valid HTML. Okay. So as you can see here, it is easy to read, but it has markdown elements within the text. So it is easy to write also, and you get the preferred output that you want. So since Markdown is really a markup language, let's see what a markup language is about. A markup language is a language that uses tags to define elements within a document. It really helps you annotate a document with some, formatting. So markup languages are designed to basically create a structure, present data. Though it's called a language, it does not execute any action or help you perform any actions. Essentially, it uses tags to define elements that will help you publish your content properly, right? So the text that is within the tags is really for the browsers to understand and render your content properly. So a brief history of markup so that we understand, the evolution of Markdown also, right? So markup languages, they have evolved and merged with new technologies over the years. Like it's basically markup. The term markup actually is from the typesetting industry, right? So it's been around, from the end of days. Then you had SGML. HTML arrived on the scene. Then you had XML, ASCII doc, and then you have Markdown here. In that sense, Markdown is really relatively new, but it falls under the bracket of markup languages. So, how did markup evolve, right? So, as the years went by, the complexity increased, right? So, HTML became a standard. There were lots of tools, that kind of generated HTML output. So, you had HTML tools with, varied HTML outputs, right? And because of this, sometimes the HTML pages would break, sometimes the tables wouldn't render properly, links would break. So, people who wanted to write simple HTML, right? Just plain HTML, just maybe a memo, or just wanted to write a blog and all that, started facing these issues of the tools themselves being complex. So during this time, you had the advent of rich text editors. So these WYSIWYG editors, kind of helped for quick and easy formatting. So emails, Outlook, Gmail, and then all the MS Office tools and all came up with lots of this WYSIWYG options, the toolbars and all, which would help you get the output you wanted, right? But what was a common observation during this time, like in the early 2000s and all that, blogging, website content, people wanted to, push content into their website. People wanted to write blogs. They wanted to participate in online discussion forums. There lots of such activities were happening. And one of the common observation was that many people found that many writers, or bloggers, they found that clicking these icons, was kind of disturbing their flow of thought. Like when they're writing one paragraph of text and they wanted to just underline maybe one word here and there, they found it distracting to move across the page. That was one observation. And the other observation was most of the non-techie people, right, who just wanted to write content or and push it onto their sites, they never really clicked these icons anyway. So but anyway, people wanted this kind of an output, but they were finding it a bit of a distraction to move across those toolbars and all that. So the question was, what happened to that simple HTML, right? So John Gruber, he's a blogger. He created Markdown as a way to simplify this HTML to meet this demand. So he decided to create a light HTML, and he came up with like simple rules. So those set of rules became what is known as Markdown. Okay, so Markdown, you don't have beginning and closing tags, no style sheets and all that. You just use simple characters, right? But again, this is meant for like simple HTML pages. You can't create complex HTML pages with frames and embedded videos and things like that, right? So this is how Markdown evolved. So John Gruber, he thought, okay, let's come up with this set of simple syntax where people can start blogging, where people can, publish their documents easily, with simple HTML format. So when the advent of social tools like WhatsApp, Facebook, Facebook Messenger, Gmail, etc., so they also use some flavor of Markdown, right? So you can kind of, change the format, make it bold, make it italics, and all that in some of these social tools, and they are Markdown enabled, right? And for example, Chrome and Firefox, they have an extension, for Gmail, right? So you can add a Chrome extension to enable Markdown in Gmail.
Sorry, Nujat, I will stop you. Sorry to stop.
Yeah. Tell me.
Can we recap what we have done till now?
Yeah, so basically, what we discussed till now was, like what is HTML, what is a markup language, correct? So first we need to understand what a markup language is and what were the issues for, for a certain segment of people to understand Markdown. Okay, so we discussed that HTML, came into the scene, then it became a standard, then it became a bit more complex, right? So you had lots of HTML tools, like for example, you wanted to compose a simple readme document, or a simple text. Word created a different HTML output. Composer created a different HTML output. The rendering became an issue. So people who were non-technical, people who wanted to just write and get their content out there, were facing certain difficulties because of all these, extra tools that were available. So that is how the concept of Markdown evolved, and John Gruber decided that we'll have a simple syntax, no tags, no style sheets, don't use any complex tools and all that, and start writing the text so that you can publish it onto the web, right? So that is how Markdown evolved. And then, so once the language itself stabilized, so you had the Markdown syntax and all that, then people started adapting Markdown into their tools, like for example, WhatsApp or Gmail. So they started kind of integrating Markdown into their tools. So that is what we are discussing now, like, how Markdown uh, kind of started appearing in different tools also, right? Did that help?
Yeah, thank you, thank you.
Okay. So one sec. So here we'll just see Markdown in Gmail, right? So like for example, I have in Firefox, I've added the extension to enable Markdown in Gmail. So when I compose an email, I write the text and then I add the Markdown elements like the hash and then the hyphen sign and all that. So these are all the Markdown elements. So there's an option to toggle Markdown in Gmail. So once I do that, I get the format that I want, right? And we get this because of all these elements that we will discuss that in the later part of the presentation. But the hash symbol really is the heading level one. So in Markdown, you can have like 6 series of hashes. So if you have like double hash, it's H2, and then up to 6 levels of hash you can have. Go down to heading level 6, right? Like for example, here I've added 4 hashes, so it would be a smaller heading 4. So, but this is a classic example where Markdown is so easy to use. When you're writing an email, right? You just write it and then you decide that okay, I want to make this bold, or I want to insert an image, or I want to make this a bulleted list. It's very simple. And rather than moving up and down the the toolbar and clicking on those icons and all that, right? So let's have a quick demo of this. Yeah, so basically I have keyed in some text here. So you can see this is like in Gmail. So will make this a heading 1 and we can make this bold. So,
Nikat, you have to share that tab. That
oh,
is
I
on
have
the
to, oh, okay, okay.
there might
How
be an
do I,
option.
yeah, yeah, I'll just, oh, how do I share that? I've shared the entire screen, no?
You can see when you mark down in Gmail. Change
Oh,
your screen.
yeah, that's what I was sharing actually.
Okay, okay. Sorry, I was showing you your document.
I'm sharing the Gmail, I'm not sharing the presentation,
Okay, sorry.
right? Okay. So let's put one star here and let's remove this.
Sorry, Nizrat, but we are
Yeah,
only to see that PPT actually.
Oh, okay. Um, what do I do? Wait,
I think unshare and then share again. It should work.
again. Yeah. Okay. Can you see now?
yeah, we can see your
Yes.
Gmail.
Yes, yes, Nizrat.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, so like I was mentioning, so like in Gmail, for example, once you install the Markdown extension, so you can type your text and then start using the Markdown elements, just to kind of get the format that you want. In this case, I have made this as a heading level 1, and I've tried to make this as italics, and then this would remain bold, right? So here you just have to right click and then click on this markdown toggle and you can get this. Mm. So this is what they say about markdown is like it should be easy to you know write and it should be easy to read, right? So like so again like we can remove that. Yeah. So you can type something and then you decide that you wanted this to be bold, in some simple format. Right here, it is easy to make the changes here, right? And then just do a markdown toggle, you get it. Okay. Can you see my PowerPoint?
Yeah, we can see.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
So guys, you
So
have any
yeah,
questions? You can feel free to ask Nizar.
yeah, because I learned with you. Because I've
Yeah,
used Markdown only in one project. It's not that I'm an expert or anything, but yeah. So feel free to ask questions, no problem. So let's have a quick look, through the Markdown basics. So again, like I have been telling that, the whole premise of Markdown is it should be simple. So with a set of small special characters, you can achieve the formatting that you want. Like, so Markdown by definition is simple to use, especially while creating HTML files. So again, like I mentioned, to apply a heading, you just have to use the hash symbol. Like in this picture here, there's a comparison. So in HTML, you would want, if you wanted to do that, and if you didn't have a very advanced HTML editor, you would have to use the tags, right? And then close the tags. Similarly, to create paragraphs in Markdown, you just use a blank line, and we all know this, the trouble we had with that uh, p tag, right? You have to close the p tag and all that. So again, since we are in the tech writing world, and we need to see how it is going to help us out, right? So we use data. So in data, for example, you want a list. You would have some kind of a structure like this. You would have to use some elements and all that. In Markdown, to create a list, it's a matter of having a numbered list or an unordered list, right? Similarly, tables. Uh, we know in HTML, to create a table, you need to know the entire set of table tags, right, to create a table. But again, in Markdown, you can use a combination of the pipe symbol and the hash symbol, and you can get your table, right? So basically, yeah, so this is how Markdown is useful, especially when you're in an online discussion forum, when you're formatting a README, right, when you're sending out some emails. Yeah. Again, data, if you're immersed in data, basically if you're using the Oxygen XML editor, it has a Markdown to data converter, right? And it also has it can convert Markdown to XHTML. So people who are using Oxygen XML editor, can kind of explore the Markdown options that are available. This video here also gives a quick introduction to the XML editor, and I think there's one section there where they actually show you, how you can use Markdown in the Oxygen environment, right? So the point is, Markdown has arrived in the technical writing world. It's no longer that, we can say, yeah, Markdown is something that developers use, or it's the syntax should be known by somebody. We just write. So it will help us if we know Markdown, right? So just like any language, even Markdown has evolved right from the day John Gruber created that syntax. So now we have lot many flavors. You have the GitHub flavored Markdown, you have Common Mark, etc.
If anybody wants to add something, they can also do that because it's a learning session, right? We all are sharing knowledge with each other. So if you want to add something on that also, that's also welcome.
Yeah, I mean, if you have used it, yeah,
So, hi Nusrat, this is Ashish here, and
yeah,
just want to ask you few things about it.
yeah.
Like, I am using I am using some editor, but for Markdown, which is known as just a second. I just started it using very recently. So
Okay.
when one version is VS Visual Code and one is Node WebKit. And
Okay.
when the issue what I get is that when I am trying to place this images from my local in
Mm-hmm.
my Markdown files, image appears on the in the editor, but
Mm-hmm.
when we and it is not happening with the VS Code again.
Mm-hmm.
But again, when hosting it, that images do not come. This is one issue that I face.
Right.
And can you tell us the common or the best editor that we can work with when using Markdown?
Yeah, in this presentation, I'm going to give a demo of Dillinger.io. So I found that it to be like a simple and easy to use Markdown editor. So regarding, I think for the image that you said, did you give a URL? I mean, you need to upload it somewhere, I think, and then give the link
Yes, yes,
there
I
for the
have that
image.
path mentioned. So
Hmm.
that is whenever I am I'm giving that path, it is
Okay.
appearing in my preview, in my
Okay.
Markdown. Yeah, I'm
Oh,
using Haroopad actually.
okay.
Okay, okay. So there are two things that I'm using. The
Yeah.
Visual Studio, it is not
Uh,
coming at all. Images are not
I
coming at
see.
all. And
Yeah.
Haroopad, I'm getting preview, but that when that part I'm running it
Right.
through my strings or something, it is not appearing in my doc,
Okay.
in my
Yeah,
build. Yeah.
yeah. We can take it offline because I have not worked on those tools, but we can try to troubleshoot that. But as far as I know, you need to provide the entire, link. Maybe in that relative path, or somewhere there. Maybe you need to check out that path that you have provided, right?
Okay, and
And
can
it's
I ask
not
you?
very
Yeah,
advanced also, like, see, because
yes,
what I've seen is you can't resize and all that. See, you can't specify the size. Maybe that could
yeah,
be
I
one
do,
issue.
I
Yeah, maybe
do.
your image size and all that. So, yeah, so
Yes,
it doesn't allow that amount
correct,
of
correct.
detail. Yeah, right. Okay.
Correct. Two more questions I have in this context is that if you could cover, in upcoming
Mhm.
this thing, slides or something, like how do we add any? Is there any way to add references
Yes, yes, you can add links. I don't think
in
cross references per se maybe it doesn't. You can always link it up. So you can add links. Yeah. So we'll have to work around that concept of formatting the link or adding a link, to make it into a cross reference. Yeah.
okay,
We can experiment with that. Yeah.
okay, okay, and
Right. Yeah.
yeah, okay, fine. And images also, do you use
Mm-hmm.
something to again? Sorry, images again.
No
Thanks,
problem.
thanks. I got
These
it.
are all like again in Markdown. What I did try, uploading some image like in that picture I showed. I put in that symbol of the hand, right, and the heart.
Yes, yes.
So while experimenting with that, yeah, what I noticed is you cannot do too much of image resizing or doing any of the image formatting. So I had to give the entire the path to that entire link. So I've simply given a link to a path for that image. So yeah, we can work it out. Yeah.
Okay,
Right? Yeah.
okay. Thanks,
Thanks. Yeah.
thanks.
So let's have a quick look, through the Markdown guide and the tools that are available. So, just as any language or anything that you're learning, you need to practice well. So it always helps to, kind of keep a markdown cheat sheet on your desktop. I mean, it's very simple. The syntax is like, I mean, you can learn it within a day practically. But it always helps to have a cheat sheet, and then understand all the emphasis, the formatting you can do, right? So like I had mentioned earlier, to create paragraphs, it's as a simple thing as just to put a blank line in Markdown. No more of that P and slash P. I used to struggle with this a lot, so I'm happy with Markdown. It's not there. Yeah. So let's have a quick look at the Markdown guide. Can you see my page?
Yes, we can see.
Okay. So yeah, so this is the basic syntax, the Markdown elements outlined in John Gruber's design document, right? So you can bookmark this link and generally refer to this syntax guide. So again, it talks about all the headings that we discussed. You can have a single hash for heading one, right up to a series of 6 hash to represent heading level 6, right? And the guide gives some alternate syntax, some of the best practices. Again, paragraphs, line breaks. Again, in HTML, that famous BR tag, right? Instead of that, you can, in Markdown, it's relatively easy. Again, emphasis, bold and italic. You can add block quotes, then lists. So in Markdown, if you want like a numbered list, you just start typing the numbered list, right? So one dot, enter your items, is a two dot. So it will get rendered. Now in HTML, you have to have that OL tag, then close that OL tag first, and then have your list items, ensure that you close it, all that. So similarly, you can have an unordered list. You use the hyphen, and then you get your bulleted list. Then you can add elements within the list, the images, right? See here, I think you need to play around with this path here, so that it renders properly the images, and then it gives you there's an option for alternate text also. So I think instead of the alternate text here, you can enter some image attributes also. So it kind of takes that, but this is really for alternate text, and you can also provide the hover text, right? So there's a lot of discussions on the forums about the or the URL that you have to provide and all that. So we can look into your question later. Yeah, you can add code, and then you can also escape some of the backticks and all. You can there's a one simple horizontal rule also is allowed. You can do it. You can add URLs. I haven't clearly explored this, but I think this should be what you were asking, right? Reference style links. Yeah. So again, images, you can have the image, then you can have that hover text there. You can link images also. You can escape the characters. Yeah, so it's a simple guide that you can have a look at it, and then there's again, like I said, the cheat sheet. So it gives you all the syntax in one page here, so you can keep that handy. Yeah, so now that we have understood the Markdown syntax, right? I mean, and we have understood where and when we can use Markdown. Lots of tools are available. So you can pick any one of the free online tools that are available to practice and start using it. But essentially, you should get comfortable with the tool of your choice, right? And then kind of as you step up your learning, you should understand there are different flavors of Markdown, and consequently there will be different tools also that support Markdown. One option is you can use your basic text editor to create Markdown files, but then you put in all the syntax, then you'll have to add a plugin to render that HTML on your browser. Instead, you can use these simple free online tools that are available. This is one tool that I found useful. It's called Dillinger. It's a free online tool. It has two panes, okay? It has a left pane and a right pane, or side by side panes. So you can start keying in your content and then add your Markdown elements, and you can see the results in the right pane. Okay, so let's have a quick look at the Dillinger tool. Yeah, this is the Dillinger.io. This is the tool. So the first thing I liked about Dillinger is it allows you to link with all these services that are required. See, in the end, the whole idea of using Markdown and all that is because you want to post it somewhere, right? So for example, you are in some discussion forum, you want to compose some text and post it to GitHub and Medium and all that. So this Dillinger allows you to do that. You can directly link with all these services. You can save it, link it to your Google Drive, etc., right? And since it's a tool, it allows you to create a new document, save your sessions and all that. You can preview your the content that you have written as HTML. You can preview your Markdown code itself. You can save it as a PDF and all. So so here's that example that I've been showing all along, right? So let's say we will just remove one heading. You can see the output here, right? And then we will make that italic. So this is kind of familiar, right? And so again, we have a bulleted list here. We can convert it to a numbered list by just changing that, right? And it actually you can it goes like that. So you get your numbered list. And you can add links, like it will allow you to add your again that hover text also. So when you hover on that, you get that text, and that you can provide at the rightmost, right? So you do that, it changes here, correct? Also about images also, again, this is the alt text that you can provide. This is what I found, that you have to provide that entire URL for it to really render correctly. Otherwise, that relative path and all, we have to find out how to do that. And then you can change your text here, right? Tables, which again, especially in readmes and all that, wherever you want to put a small and quick table. This is very easy in Markdown. You just have to, and you don't even have to, enter all this. You can always, from the cheat sheet that you have, you can just copy paste the table syntax and then start changing it. Like for example, if you come here, you have the extended syntax, right? So what I do is, just come here, just copy that, right? And then, so I mean, I don't really have to actually enter the pipe characters and all that. After that, we just continue with our, changing our text and all that, right? So yeah, so this is the Dillinger tool. So I mean, it kind of helps you create your Markdown files easily. So and here they have this option here, so you can just to see how it will appear in HTML. See, this would be the amount of code that comes in HTML, but this is how it would appear in Markdown, and this would be your Markdown. So again, like I said, it is easy to read also, right? Effectively, you can read this email. Here and there are some Markdown elements. If you ignore it, you can actually read through this text also easily. So it's easy to read and it's easy to write, just as we saw right now. Okay. So that was about the Markdown tool. So you have any questions?
Hi, Sandeep here. I have one doubt.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, I took part in Oktoberfest this year, and I worked on an open source project.
Mm-hmm.
They had everything in Markdown.
Okay.
So the task they assigned me was to update a table
Okay.
with examples. So I created another column,
Mm-hmm.
and then I added examples. But actually, the table had two columns, so I created a third one and I added examples in the third
Mm-hmm.
column.
Okay.
But the after adding the third column, the second column it shrunk actually. So I followed the exact like how to say
Mm.
um, there was another table with three columns. So I used
Correct.
that template to
Right.
create this one, but I couldn't get the second column properly. May I know why it happened?
See, that could be, you should check the settings, right? Maybe the table settings or the page layout or something, because in Markdown, it should expand and it should contract, right? So we can try that, right? Here. In Dillinger, we'll just quickly try because anyway uh, we are in Dillinger here. So what you're saying is you had to add another column here, right? Sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
already there was
So
a topic and description column, so I
true,
had
true.
to add an example column.
Okay. So we add that here. Then we just take this, right? And then yeah, it's rendering here, right? See that? Now, did you have? I mean, I don't know if the issue was about the spacing and all,
Yeah,
right?
it was actually about the spacing.
If you want to, you have to add a hard coded spacing, like some you could try with that and nb and non-breaking space symbol, right? You can, in Markdown it allows you to embed some HTML elements. Okay, so if you want to, like for example, it is not kind of aligning, you want this column to be a little wider and all that, and you cannot add continuous spaces, will not really give you continuous spaces in Markdown. So you could use this the non-breaking space option in the HTML, and then try that. So you basically want to widen the columns, right? You want to ease it up. You could try adding this non-breaking space so that that particular column widens up. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Actually, I tried Atom Editor, so
Oh,
you know,
Atom. Okay, okay. So
I
each,
couldn't
that's
see
what,
what.
we don't know which flavor of Markdown, that particular editor is using. Like I mentioned, you have that common Markdown, and then you have the GitHub flavored Markdown and all that. So based on that, this tables are a bit iffy in any case, right? Even in HTML also, tables was very difficult to, kind of render most of the times. So what we can do is we can look up the Atom editor. The features and how it handles tables. So that is how you need to troubleshoot. Okay, so go through the Atom editor help that's available. Experiment in a separate file. You experiment on the tables alone. Okay, then once you figure it out, you can put it back into this document. So that's the only way you can sort it out. Yeah, if it's Atom editor, we can always have a look at it and see. But in Dillinger, we just saw right now, right? So it is able to expand and collapse based on the length of the text. See, it did it, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
We can integrate this with Git and use the Git Markdown files in Git and edit it
Yeah,
in.
and then edit. Yeah, you could do that. Yeah, or maybe your table you can anyway. Dillinger is also free. Maybe you can put it in Dillinger, check it out, right? And then copy that, put it back into Atom, and then see. Each tool will have its little nuances, especially with tables and links. That was the whole thing, right? So, so you just experiment, and then you can let me know. Yeah.
Okay, sure. Like it was
Yeah.
my first time, so I didn't know what Markdown is and what to do. I was only
Okay.
following
Okay.
templates.
Okay. So
Thank you.
I hope this was a bit helpful, right? Yeah.
Yeah, Sandeep. So, in addition to what Nusrat has suggested, you can also try some table generator, which I have put in the chat box, and even Markdown Monster. So, I use these two tools basically to generate, vis-a-vis tables, and then paste it to the editor. You can try it out if you find it helpful. It's helpful, and might be you are able to solve this problem.
Yeah. Thank you.
Sure, Ashish. Thank you.
So till now we kind of had a quick look at some of the Markdown tools, right? We had a look at Dillinger, and we also saw how we can use Markdown in Gmail and things like that. So now let's see, basically in the tech writing world, where and how we can use Markdown. In tech docs, Markdown is often used in, README files, especially in all these online discussion forums, then especially in API documentation. Okay, this was an earlier days we used to use Java docs for API documentation and all. So some of the tech doc artifacts, like I mentioned earlier, would be the patch bundle readmes. It has all the bug details, so you can have a simple table with the bug number, the description, and the issue. The status, etc. So these are all kind of use cases where you can use Markdown. Simple release notes, what's new documents. But primarily nowadays, Markdown is used for API documentation. API documentation is really very developer centric. So who uses the APIs? The developers are our audience, right? And they are our audience also, and on the other side, it's the developers who provide us the source also, right? So that way it requires a innate collaboration between the writer and developer. Yeah, collaboration is there between the writer and developer all along for other documents also, but in API it is really innate, it's all enmeshed. So you can actually nowadays you can use one single tool where the developer will can dump in all the API design and the parameters, the responses, everything, and then the writer can go in there, right, and start editing them, for clarity. So Markdown is good for developers basically, since they can use it within their dev environment, right? And if we as writers know Markdown, we can kind of quickly edit it for the missing pieces and wrap it up faster. So let's have a quick look at some of the trending API documentation, that's available these days. So I found this link which says it's 5 examples of API documentation, right? So let's have a look at one of them. So this is the Twitter API documentation. So it follows a two panel layout, and then it has a tree at the left side, and then you have all the content in the right panel, right? So all the APIs or they have an overview section, and then all the endpoints, the available operators, and all that. So this is a good example of API documentation. There's one more here, which is the GitHub documentation. Again, GitHub follows a three panel layout. So you have one where you have the navigation tree, then you have the content in the middle panel, and then in the right panel you have the subsections, examples, responses, etc. Right? So for example here, so they have this kind of it's all the layouts and all that are pretty good. So this is Dropbox documentation API. Okay. Then so this Twilio's REST API document. Again, here it's a three-panel layout. Okay, so they have the navigation here, and then they have the documentation in the center panel, and then they have examples and the API calls mentioned in the right panel. Okay. So one other example that I had a chance to go through in detail was the Stripe API documentation. So that also follows a three-panel layout. Yeah. So it also follows a three-panel layout, and I mean, I think each set of documentation has a different style and all that. For example, Stripe API has like a collapse button and a expand button where you can show everything. And then again, everybody consistently they use the third panel to show some examples and syntax, etc. Okay. So again, here, they have an expand option. You can collapse it. So, for example, to get an option, you have all the parameters mentioned here. They have the API calls mentioned here in a different colored background. So different themes and all that they have used, right? So how do these people get up? We saw some at least 4 to 5 layouts and 4 to 5 examples of API documentation. How was that done? Like, one approach would be to use the standard Word template, but that would be a little cumbersome to get that kind of output that we saw. So currently, I think the trend is towards docs as code tools, right? Where the developer can put in some code, and then the writer can go into the same tool, edit it, and reformat and publish the API, right? So developer centric tools for documentation, that's often referred to as docs as code tools. They are much more common than the normal help authoring tools. So again, to reiterate, API documentation is usually a collaborative effort between developers and writers using the same tool, right? Using the same tool, same environment. Both of them can get the doc out the door. Yeah. So let's have a quick look at,
Uh, so,
yeah,
Rizat, I will stop you for a couple of minutes.
yeah,
I
yeah.
think Shankar has some questions. Shankar has a question about the confidentiality of the content. Shankar, can you ask a question? Actually,
Yeah.
he has typed in chat that we have around 100 topics. Can we use Dillinger, which is web-based? And what about the confidentiality and the security of the document?
Hmm. I think Dillinger also they have like you need to sign up and all that, right? So there will be a login and a sign up and all that. What was your question? Like, because even Dillinger, you need to sign up for an account and then you can, start. Most in your organization, any tool, I mean, though it is freely available, but in your organization, when you're using, definitely a licensed version would be used, right? and then in that sense, the confidentiality of your content should be maintained. Was that the answer? I don't know.
Shankar, can you unmute yourself?
Sorry. So my concern was, see, we
Hmm.
have been using Visual Studio Code,
Correct.
also Markdown Monster,
Okay.
but we have plans to go for subscription for RoboHelp
Mm.
and migrate all the MD files to RoboHelp. But
Okay.
I saw Dillinger, right? So it is
Right.
so user friendly and convenient to convert all the topics to either HTML or PDF.
Correct.
So my concern is, as it is web based,
Hmm.
can we trust it in terms of confidentiality of the content?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, see, it will be there will see what I showed you was the free version, right? But
Yeah.
there will be definitely there will be a paid version for that. So
Okay.
they'll ensure your but with your account and all that, they'll ensure the security of your content and all that. Yeah,
Okay. Okay.
right.
Is Visual Studio Code also? I mean, we have been using the open source version.
Yeah, that's open source. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Visual Studio open source. Yes. Um,
So we need not worry about the uh, content breach or content leakage, right?
that's a different topic actually.
No,
No.
the problem is
Hmm.
we want to buy RoboHelp again. We are a startup,
Right.
so our management has second thoughts because they
Hmm.
are insisting to use open source. At the same
Oh,
time,
okay.
we have this confidentiality concerns.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that we'll have to look because any tool, any like for let's go back to this Dillinger only. Okay, so
So I would like to answer you, Shankar. So I don't think there is any repository like Dillinger you're talking here, repository or any tool which is
Okay.
on cloud. So their
Yeah.
primary responsibility is to protect your confidentiality,
Yeah.
right?
yeah,
So
that's what.
I don't think there is any problem there because like if you check out the GitHub, complete
Uh-huh.
code are there on the GitHub. So like we cannot say that we have to trust them, right? So they have that kind of security, cyber security, and everything like which cannot be attacked.
Okay. Okay. I will discuss with my manager. I will
So your
go through all
problem
this.
is why you must like you're evaluating that you should go for RoboHelp or you should go for Markdown. Is that the problem?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we will discuss. I mean, but the final call is they have to take it. But I will give all these inputs to them.
Yeah.
Thank you.
See, that is, yeah, I mean, just to close on that, those are tool decisions, right? So as
Uh-huh.
far as security of the content, again, that again is related to security. And if you get a paid version, what is the level of security that particular tool applies, right?
Mm-hmm.
What they
Mm-hmm.
what they provide, what is the level of security they provide is the questions you need to ask the tool provider,
Yes,
and
yes,
then that will be taken care of there, right? So what
yes.
you're saying is you have some Markdown content taken from GitHub or open source and all that, and you want
Uh,
to migrate it into your internal licensed version of RoboHelp.
uh.
Correct. So that should be possible. I
No,
mean, so you're
if at all,
pushing it in. Yeah.
we don't buy RoboHelp for budget concerns or whatever, can we
Uh-huh.
still continue using it because we just started with building up the documentation.
I see.
So,
Okay.
and
Mm-hmm.
moreover, our product is a network security web application.
Okay.
So
Okay.
anyway,
Okay.
I will discuss with them and I will insist to buy a paid version, license version.
Anytime, see, these free tools are good for us in the sense that you want to learn something and all.
Yeah, yeah,
But
true.
in an organization, I would never recommend using a free this thing.
Yeah, yeah,
Everything
true, true,
has to
true.
be licensed, and it
Exactly,
has to be a licensed version. So
exactly.
then yeah, that team will take care of your concerns there, right?
Sure, sure. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So let's we were talking about. Yeah, so Speka, it's like we just saw some samples of API documentation, right? So how are those people achieving it? So they'll be using this API documentation tools, right? So which will give you that color theme, which will give you that layout, which will help you generate examples. It should help the developer also very quickly use Markdown and then annotate code and annotate whatever optional parameters if he wants it to be in italics. Then Markdown is enabled in all those tools. So what are some of those API documentation tools? So one of them is the Speka.io, which recently I had a chance to work on. So we'll just have a quick look at that tool. Yeah, so this Pika tool, it's a good tool to design and document your API, right? So API designers can define their data models, their operations, payloads, the parameters, the responses, etc. Using this tool. And my cursor keeps going all over the place. Okay. Yeah, so this is a good tool where, like I mentioned earlier, writers and developers can collaborate and complete this deliverable called API documentation easily, right? Rather than taking it offline, like how we do traditional documentation. The person gives all his content, we go back into our help authoring tool, we write, and then we, give that document for review. Then it comes back to you and all that. So but for API, it's the trending approach these days is to use these tools where developers dump in their content in this tool and you can go and edit it. And it follows the open API standard. So the main thing here is Speka.io uses this flavor, the common mark flavor of Markdown, which we can learn if you are going to use Speka, right? So again, it allows you to have auto-generated, modern-looking documentation. So the Speka app itself gives us, almost three samples of. I think the Pet Store API is a standard example that is used across the Open API standard definition. So the Speka folks also have, given a link to this Pet Store API. Then you have the Icon Finder API, DigitalOcean API. So you want to, if you're new to API documentation, you're new to Speka, you can always go through all this, understand it, and then kind of create your own style and technique. Okay. Yeah, I mean, all these options where you can import, export, and all that. So let's go to the dashboard. Again, this Peka, what I'm using is a free version. So obviously, so many options will be disabled. So in the licensed version, you can use a lot of more versions. And like we discussed just now, I mean, the security aspects and all will be taken care of in the licensed version. Okay. So basically, what we can do is we can always clone your, the API or content, clone or like create a version. So what I have done here is I've created a copy of that Pet Store API. Okay, so that we can just experiment and play around with it and all. So in Speka, what we can do is we can create all the we can create this hierarchy first of all, right? The navigation panel. So you can start like in any navigation tool, you can go here and then you can create a dock, and then you can move it across in whichever node you want that dock to appear. We'll see that later. But so for example, let's look at the settings. Okay, so we'll go to the dock settings. Now in Speka, they have these three options that they have provided for the layout. So what we saw, right, in all those examples, they had like a 3-column layout with a sidebar, the documentation, and examples. You can also have a 2 columns. You can have a constrained 2 column like that. So again, in the sidebar, you can decide whether you want what type of operation you want, detail, the level of detail. So do you want your documentation to just say get users, right? Or you want this get button and then get users, or you want the entire path to be visible. So all these you can do in your global doc settings. Okay, you can decide whether you want headers, and then inline also, do you want the inline common parameters to be mentioned or not, right? Then the page header, the base URL, all these options you can set, and then you can save those options, right? So let's look at this dry option itself. You can anytime when you're editing your content, you can always click that view, the preview option, and you can see how it appears here, right? And anytime you want to go back to your listing, you can, I mean, you can definitely click here, or in case you have too many windows open, you don't know where it is sitting, you can go back to edit API, it comes back to the same page. So so the layout, so here you have all these, you can define some common content variables that you're going to use, and this is where you can have some the style sheets can be edited here. Again, like for me, since this is a free version, I'll not be able to save it, but this is how you can change the layouts, right? Like for example, the sidebar width, you can change the sidebar width, you can change the header background color. So you want something like Twilio, this using Speka, you can achieve it. Okay, so for example, this panel you want it in a blue background, so you can always uh, pick the correct option here and then change it, right? So you have the schema, you can set your schema, the example colors, the code colors, the code highlight color. So all this can be done to, so basically using Speka, you can get any of these layout. I mean, as writers, as documentation, we are, I mean, it is important we design the layout, right, for our product. So you can use Speka to design this product or to have something like this or even this, right? Because there is that option for a 2-column layout also. Yeah. Okay, so that's about the settings and how you can get your layouts done, and then you can, yeah. So let's come to how we can use Markdown here. So Speka comes with a generic Markdown editor here. Like for example, you want to add a description, right? So I mean, it does come with its with the toolbar, and which will enable the markdowns automatically. You have it here, and then if you want to know, like for example, here you don't have the option for a table here in the toolbar, right? But you want to put, if you want to insert a table, you can always click on this help icon. The common mark cheat sheet is plugged into the app, right? So you can go to the table here, and then you can pick your syntax. So if you want to write a line, there are two options here. There are many actually. Once you get into it, you can change the layout. This you have one row gray and white, the alternate. You can disable that. You can enable a different format. There are lots of things you can do, but basically, if you want a table here in Speka, you can just copy from the this one and then paste it here and then go on. And then there's a preview option here. At any given point, you can just preview and see whether it's coming up properly, and then go back, right? So similarly, there are all these options are there where you can link to a group, like cross referencing, right? So this is a group, I think, this users, store, pets, and all. So for example, I mean, we are doing documentation here, right? So you require lots of cross references and all. So that is what they have provided here. So you can link, for example, I can link this description of the schema pet to this group here, right? Or I can link to an operation also. So which one? I want to say, probably click this, right? And I can link to a type. Then anytime I can preview and then check whether it works or not. Okay. So given a name, you can have a description, and then they have, this is a rich text markdown editor basically. So all this, it will generate markdown enabled content, right? So again, wherever, so this is how Speka kind of, so the developer comes in and then he kind of puts in all the actual data he wants, like whether it's in 64 or what format. He will select all that. Sometimes we know developers, right? Sometimes they would have given a description, sometimes they wouldn't have. So the writer comes into the same tool, same Speka, same login, come here, open, and then you make your changes here. Okay. So and again, this is markdown. So for example, For single line text where you if a description requires multi-line of text, then the tool provides this markdown RTE, basically the rich text editor. But where there's a single line, this is where your knowledge of markdown will help, right? So again, okay, so you can do that, see, and then you can see it happen right there, the changes. And this is very useful, especially when you want to put in code, a block code and all that. So that's helpful there. And yeah, so here there's a small table that we have created. You can put all that. Okay, and then you have the examples. So this now here you don't have to, like in the traditional this thing, what would have happened is your developer would have given you this example, correct? And then you would have copied it, and then if you're not using a tool like Speka, you would have had to copy and put it. But Speka here, because it's both developer and writer specific, it allows you to generate your examples automatically based on all the parameters, based on all the details that the developer has set up in Speka. You can just come here, run it. You want like a JSON, or you want a HTTP output, or you want like a curl output, then you can give your descriptions again here. So this webinar is all about how you can use Markdown, right? So that's why I'm emphasizing that you can always, and if single line of text, you want this maybe like you know where's that back tick, sorry, you can use a back tick to to highlight a piece of code or something. You can do that. And the best thing is examples, it kind of generates on its own. You as a writer, when you're doing the documentation, you can generate your own example, and of course your developer will review it, but there's an option here to generate your examples, right? And then you can add any extensions your developer has provided. So this is like a very comfortable way by which you can create the API documentation that is required. And of course, there are options where you can view your change history. You can clone this entire set again, right? And at any given point, you can always, preview, like I mentioned earlier, all your changes, right? So the other thing is how to edit. See, now how to create this navigation tree itself. So you can always edit this tree here. So you have this option. So you can click one, you can select, you can move it physically, right? Or you can select all of them, you can sort it, you can sort all your content, your subtopics. Now you don't want to sort it, you want this particular topic to come at the top, you can move it, you can delete it, you can create new topics, right? You can create a new topic, and then once that topic, I mean, we know how these trees are built, right? The Once you create a new topic, it will go and sit at the very bottom or at the very top, and then you can select that and then move it across the navigation tree. So that's how you add your nodes. And then again, within this also, yeah, so this is how you create your navigation tree. The other thing is, you can also, the developers can use this try it option, and then they can submit it to see the actual response. So it has a mock server built in Speka. So you can try out the APIs also, provided you have all the data put in correctly, you can actually try it out and see how it works, right? So I don't know how helpful this was, but or how I conveyed it, but this tool is good to create any kind of API documentation, that you see across. Like for example, GitHub 3-panel. I showed you how you can set up the doc to create a 3-panel layout. Then you can have this tree. We discussed that, right? How you can create a tree. So you can move all the content. You can build the tree here. So Speka allows that. And yeah, of course it's Markdown, it enables Markdown, so you can definitely add in your tables, your images, and whatever text you want, right? So there's an option here, see, in here you can add an image. So I select that image and then it comes here. I preview it. I got the image here. So when you have like small icons, correct? When you are documenting the API, somewhere you want to put a down arrow and up arrow and all that. So you can basically use this option to you can use an insert image here right here. Okay. Yeah, I think that's about what I had. Links actually across the presentation, wherever I felt it is required, I have put in the links directly there, so that if at all you're going through that slide, you can just click on that link and go through. But anyway, here also I have mentioned some of the links that we saw during the webinar, the Markdown guide, the Dillinger, the Stripe documentation, and some sample API documentation, and the Speka documentation. Okay. Yeah. Any questions?
Yeah, hi, this is Mohan here.
Hello.
Yeah, can I ask the question for him?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just asking purely from a business standpoint. Like, what are the cost benefits, like from a documentation authoring tool, moving to Markdown, and what is the approach you would probably follow if I need to convince a customer to move from, let's say, a traditional documentation tool like RoboHelp to Markdown? So what do you feel is the cost benefits, and how I can convince customers to move to Markdown, not specifically to API, but like an online help format?
Yeah, see, this Markdown is really a methodology to help your team write content faster, right? So it is not for publishing the content. So like for example, RoboHelp and all that, it's all about creating all the CHM files and creating the help library literally. So Markdown will not enable you to do that. Markdown is like I showed in that Speka, right? It's a tool where, like for example, instead of investing in another HTML tool called Composer, okay, you can, if your team learns Markdown, so for them it will be convenient to continue their work if they know Markdown, and if they are using a tool, a help authoring tool that has Markdown enabled in it. So I wouldn't say that we can move out of let's say Edita tool or RoboHelp tool or even FrameMaker, SGML, and move on to only Markdown. Markdown is really it is an enabler tool. Okay, it's an enabler language which will quickly help your team work faster while they are documenting their content, right? So that would be my take on I would not we need to study that further, because we have not looked at from the business standpoint. We are all thinking about, as writers, how can we help writers be more productive, how can we help writers quickly finish their work, because I have worked on readmes for years and years. I have worked on that Composer tool, right? And I know how painful it was. So I had to get the readme text from someone, correct? The developers, and the content for the readme we used to get from someone source, right? Then we had to dump it into Composer, then put that, convert it to HTML, and then again dump it back to the knowledge management system that was available there, correct? So it had like a three-way thing. Now if it is Markdown enabled, like a tool like Speka, right? You use, if the organization invests in a tool like Speka or any other tool like that, right, which enables both the developer and the writer to quickly edit all this smaller set of documents like readmes, and you have this one-off documents, right, like a release note. Now that has to be nowadays everything is HTML. Correct. So everything has to be HTML. So instead of relying on the developer to give the README content, and then the writer pulls it into her tool or his tool, correct, and then moves on, converts it to HTML, and then uploads it. Instead of that, if you use some Markdown enabled authoring tool, it will be easier for synchronizing the entire work. Yeah.
No, the reason why I asked that is because, see, if you take a simple online help, right, the output is HTML. correct?
Correct.
Now, if I'm having a customer that is using an online help like RoboHelp or Flare, I want to convince that customer saying, okay, move from this so that I can save you some cost, right? So, what from a writer standpoint, what you're basically saying, it helps in drafting content faster, right?
Correct.
So,
Yes.
from a business standpoint, it also there's also a way to convince existing clients or new clients to say, okay, I want to move to Markdown, and these are my cost benefits. So that's where my question comes. So
That okay, yeah. So again, it depends. Basically, your customer would be getting the RoboHelp output, for example, right? Like Oracle, they have like a doc library. So the customer gets the library. They don't get the source code. Like they don't, you don't release the CHM files to the customer, right? So the customer in the end sees the final output of RoboHelp. So eventually, at the end of it, the customer should not care too much about how you created that output that he's seeing. Now, for example, there is this concept of customized help. So if you are enabling, if you are giving them that hook into your system, that okay, yeah, if the customer wants to say that I want to create my own customized help, okay, that need comes up, because what happens is you in supposing it's some CRM kind of an app, so everywhere we call them customers. Now supposing this particular client of yours feels that he wants a customized help where he doesn't want to refer to that term, maybe that term is not relevant to him, a bill of lading, or creating a invoice or whatever, he probably uses some other term. So he wants to quickly update the help. In that situation, that in a very minuscule kind of a situation, you can recommend your customer that okay, look, why don't you use a Markdown enabled tool, and then at the customer side, the writer should know Markdown, and then probably make those changes quickly in some little formats quickly. So it's a very niche kind of a situation where, but I don't think we can just wipe out all the documentation suite of tools, right? Like you have RoboHelp, you have Data based lots of tools, you have FrameMaker. We can't just push them out and say, yeah, use Markdown, because in the end Markdown also enables HTML. But those tools have their advantages. They have a different criteria for those tools. So we can't just do like a one-on-one map off, right?
okay.
We can take it offline. I can explain it further if you want. But
Primarily from a cost optimization standpoint is what I was trying.
yeah. Your customer, basically, your customer has to pay for all these tools. This is essentially a productivity enhancement, and mainly like a process-oriented thing. And it's a ease of use. Markdown, like I said, you want to blog, you want that customer. If you are enabling, if you are opening up RoboHelp for your customer, and he wants to make some changes, and if RoboHelp has Markdown enablement, he better learn Markdown. So that is how you need to market your stance on that.
Okay.
So you can't, and it will help productivity, because if not this, because like I gave you that sample of that README cycle, right? So it takes like 3 iterations, but if all the 3 of them knew Markdown and they used one tool, the time would be reduced. So automatically somewhere your bottom line will improve, because people are working less on all these, going around all the tools. Yeah. Like I gave the example of Data also, no, an Oxygen XML editor. So they also now, because of they are seeing the demand for Markdown, the help it is. So they've integrated Markdown now. So that doesn't mean you cannot use Oxygen at all, just use Markdown. No, that will not scale up. Yeah.
Okay, so it's I would say probably like an add-on or a
Yes, it's an add. Provided RoboHelp has that plugin, yeah, you ask them to buy that plugin. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah.
Do we have more questions? Guys, can you see a poll on your screen?
What?
Can you see poll on the screen?
No, Rahul, no poll till now.
No.
I don't know how to do this. Anyways,
I think you opened the poll. 2021 suggested timing for upcoming webinar. Yeah.
Can you see?
Yeah, I can see something.
Everyone?
Not everyone. Actually, I am able to see regarding, there is this is Nuzrat's window,
Oh,
and
okay.
yeah.
I'll stop presenting. So
No, I think it just popped up, Rahul. Just maybe people might have not got that message.
Yeah. Actually, I didn't click on that popped up thing, so I'm unable to see that.
You can
Can
go
you
to the
share now once again and then try?
Let me do
you can
that.
go to the activities icon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and click on that. Then you'll see the poll there.
Actually, I'm also learning this Meet to Google Meet. I was using Zoom, so this is my, I can say 3 vote here. Anyways, vote. Just I will take a couple of minutes so that we can do webinar in a much more effective way. That's why these questions are there. So my question is like when we should conduct the webinar, in the daytime, like this is 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. or in the evening 4 to 5 p.m. or in the evening 7 to 8 p.m. So 3 people have said that they want 11 to 12 p.m. Anyone else have a different view?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, can't you vote? Yeah, so if anyone of you are interested in presenting any webinar on any topic of your choice, you can reach out to me or to my few of my team members. They're on the website, and we can conduct that. Right, because this is a learning platform. Information Developer Foundation is not for profit organization, and we are here to share the knowledge. So if you have a knowledge, because I don't know who have, it's like who is working on what tools and just looking at the diversity of the tools in technical writing. We should share the knowledge, right? So if you want to share your knowledge, you can reach out to me, and for sure we will conduct a webinar on that topic. But that should be relevant to tech writing, content writing, just like for professional like us. So this is all I want. Please reach out to me, and also you can give me the feedback, right? And there was one discussion with my team members, like should we give like the recording of this presentation, right? Should we give it to everyone or not? Why? Because those who are coming in the live in the class, they are dedicating their time. But if you get this kind of link free, then that will discourage people to join the live webinar. That is one of the point. And another point was that we should give them so that we will have a broader audience. So what is your view? Can anyone speak on this if you have a different view?
Sir,
They don't want to give their opinion. So anyways, we will take decision on that, what we have to do. Because few people feel that we are joining and why you are giving link to everyone, why you those who are not joining even. What is the issue, Priyadarshi? Some issues? What is the issue? Guys cannot speak? Is something like that?
yeah,
something
Hearing go? Not sure why it is that. Okay, yes, thank you for your time. Echo? Why this echo is coming? So thank you everyone. Thank you for your time. Link will be available on the YouTube very soon whenever I get time. But I will try to by tomorrow. And last year presentation is also available on YouTube. That was from Mohan on Excel. Okay, thanks guys.